Hello and welcome to the first line of Gate 40. This is called Recuperation. I am recuperating after the attack of the wasp. Teeny little tiny wasp, poor thing. Anyway, it's not here today. It gets attracted to the sultanas that I put out for the blackbirds because they're so sweet and yummy. But anyway, it's not here today, thankfully. And it didn't sting me, just in case you were wondering. It's fine, and I'm not major what's the word, allergic to them. I just kind of swell up in a big way, and it's very painful. So yeah, that's my wasp story for today. The first line, as we know, is the foundation of the hexagram. It tells us exactly what the 40th gate is all about, and what a successful contract in any relationship is all about, actually. And that is aloneness, recuperation, and rest. Well, in the exaltation, it says the ability to relax and enjoy the fruits of one's labors. The ego strength to enjoy being alone. 40th gate, it loves to work. You know, it is a love gate. And the love that it expresses is the love of work. But it also loves to rest. It will say, hey, I've done my 8 hours today. I've got my money. I'm free. I can do what I want. Never take the rest away from the ego center. Its life curve is to get to the point where it does no work at all and is still getting paid. This is the goal of all egos. As a defined ego, I can say, absolutely, why not? Bring it on. In the detriment we have, the moon cannot stand still. The ego that is uncomfortable with being alone for too long. So the only difference really between the exaltation and the detriment is that they don't need as much rest. This is lower trigram, you know, and the 40 in the first line, it doesn't easily find a partner at the other end who will allow them to rest. And they must have their rest. This is the basis of all the bargains that we find in the 40th gate and in the channel of community. I will work hard for you, and then you leave me alone, but support me and be loyal. That's the bargain. And if you cross that loin, don't cross the loin. That can get really painful. But if you don't cross the line, then everything's going to work out perfectly well. The moment you do cross that line, every bit of energy that you take from the ego when it wants to rest, you're going to pay for it. Somehow you're going to pay for it. The essence of this hexagram is that the ego can be used for a certain amount of time, and then it must have its rest. It's simple. This is the recuperation that every 40th gate needs, and whether the ego is defined or not. And we know that it often will be, because the 37 is both a harmonic and a polarity. So we very often have the whole channel of community defined. Those from my generation and back, really, maybe we all recognize the father figure who used to come home from work and expect dinner to be ready for them. And they'd been working all day and they didn't want to have to do anything else in the evening except maybe watch TV, just rest, kick back. And then at weekends, they'd maybe be out doing the gardening, or they'd be painting the house, or something for the community, something for the tribe or the family, still working. And this doesn't indicate that all of our fathers had the gate 40 or the 3740, but we have all been under the influence of the cross of planning for the last 400 odd years. This is in the global cycle that we've been, the background frequency that we've had, and this is why it has become such a stereotype. And it's also why this stereotype isn't as powerful as it used to be, because this cycle is nearing its end, and the channel of community and everything it stands for won't be a global imperative anymore. So the ego needs its rest. And when you look at the biology and you look at the association that the ego center has with both the heart and the stomach, then you can see why it's so important. The heart is a muscle. It beats, it pulses, and then it rests. It beats, it rests. It's that constant pulse, on and off, on and off, on and off. And this is how the ego is designed to work as well. And I think with the heart, I haven't researched this, whether the beat of the heart is the same as the rest as the heart, if there is that equality, or if there's a little bit longer of a rest. There's a beat and then there's a little bit of a rest. And then there's a beat and the rest. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. If you know, then please write it down, let me know. But that's how the heart is. It's not designed to just, to be in that moment of pulsing and hold it for the whole day, because that's going to cause immense harm. It's like people who suddenly find that they have to run and run and run, and their heartbeat is elevated and elevated and elevated, and you can't sustain it. Anything that makes you work that hard, that your heart elevates that high, you can't sustain it for too long. We're not designed for that. And likewise, the stomach is not designed to be full all day, every day, without some rest in between meals to digest and to absorb. A stomach that is constantly filled cannot work correctly. You'll have heard me say this if you listen to the overview. I said that in there because it's such an important part of the functioning of the ego center, and gate 40 particularly being the gate of the stomach. We have to bear this in mind, because all the symbolism of filling the stomach up works the same as filling up the ego or the gate 40 with too much work, with not enough rest. So if you have this gate or this channel defined consistently in your chart, and you have people in your life who expect you to work constantly, who are always after something from you, can you just do me this favor? Oh, you work really hard. Could you just do this? Could you just do that? Maybe they admire the fact that you can push through without rest, and they encourage you to do that because they value that in you for whatever reason. It may be your worth somehow that they see, the ego centered, all about being worthy. And if you've got this gate in an open ego, then you might be trying to prove your worth through the fact that you can work really hard without resting, which is not correct for you. And if this is happening, if these are the people that you have in your life, then maybe you could look at renegotiating this particular bargain. With the open ego, you have nothing to prove. With a defined ego, you don't generally think in those terms. Although if you've got an unconsciously defined ego, you can. It can all be it's very personal depending on how your chart is actually expressing. But if you haven't got the correct people in your life, it can be very difficult to just let them go. But if they are pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to act in a way that you are not designed to act, that is ultimately going to be really unhealthy for you, then they are not the correct people for you. Yeah. This is where we learn to love ourselves. And part of loving ourselves in this context is resting. Take a rest. So the ego could be defined, but unconsciously defined, and therefore you need to pay a little greater attention to when you need that rest. Set alarms on your phone, remind yourself that it's necessary, and eventually you get better and better at doing it. We're all so heavily conditioned to work until we drop. And so often we just don't consider the toll that takes on our physical bodies. See, the wasp has gone, but the blackbirds haven't. Here you go. A baby blackbird, it's really insistent. Conditioning. I was talking about conditioning, wasn't I? I remember years ago when I used to work in London and I travelled on the tube regularly. There was, I think it was Lemsip, or it was day nurse or night nurse, one of those sorts of things. There's medications, and they were running an advertising campaign. It was in the winter. And they were encouraging people to self-medicate with these products. I can't remember which one it was, but if they didn't feel well, you take this product. And then you can work through your cold, or you'll work through your flu symptoms. And the caption was all about, I think it said, there were two of them that they ran simultaneously. One of them was like, who's sweet talking your boss if you're at home in bed? or who's doing all your work, who's proving themselves the better employee if you're at home in bed sick. And then the other one was who's taking your girlfriend out for dinner if you're at home sick, that kind of thing. And it was like, my God, it's like looking back on that now, I don't know, it made me uncomfortable at the time. But now, knowing about human design, knowing about the 40 and about the ego and the heart and how it all works, it's a message that just hits so many tribal triggers, really appalling conditioning about you have to work for your tribe, you have to keep going, you have to work till you drop, and it's all against that background frequency of the cross of planning, which is, work hard for your community, keep on going, keep on going. So the grounding to the sun during this transit comes from gate 37, which is the gate of friendship and the gate of the family. And in the first line, it's called the mother-father. So the 37 wants harmony. It really wants harmony everywhere. It wants it in its family, it wants harmony in its friendships. And it provides the loyalty and the support that is necessary for the 40th to take its rest. Because that also is a harmonious relationship. The 40 is going to work really hard. And so the harmony that comes from that is allowing it to rest, is giving it that loyalty, recognizing it for what it does, and encouraging it to rest and to recuperate after working hard for its tribe. So, as I said, we do have this channel for the whole of this transit. So we're all in the conditioning field of both the defined heart center and the defined solar plexus. So we could be very mindful about the conditioning that's coming through and that can be experienced here. If you don't have these activations usually in your chart, then be careful of any bargains that you might enter into over the next few days while this channel is operational. Just keep an eye on it, because these are designed just to pass through your experience. If you don't have these activations, usually you're a filter. You're just filtering them through. You're here to learn about them, but you're not here to make them yours. So just be careful about those tricksy little bargains. The moon has been in gate 15 since 6:34 this morning. All my timings are BST currently, not for much longer, well, another couple of months, I suppose. The G center, gate 15. This is all about extremes and the love of humanity or not. The moon then moves into gate 52 at 16:55. And this is the wonderfully named Keeping Still a Mountain. It's the gate of inactivity. It's in the root center, and it's about temporary and self-imposed inaction for the benefit of assessment. There's a little bit of rest and recuperation coming into gate 52 as well. This gate brings us the ability to be still in the physical body and in our senses, and to use the power of the root to concentrate on what is worthwhile, what is really good to dedicate one's energy to. And there can be some depression associated with gate if there's nothing to focus on, or if there is an inability to keep still. And then at 03:21, tomorrow morning, the moon moves into gate 39, another root gate, and this is the gate of provocation. So we have the pressure to provoke the emotions of others to discover the quality of their spirit. Gate 39 points at gate 55 in the solar plex, and gate 55 is the gate of spirit. So it's looking for those that it can resonate with. This is the whole reason, really, for the provocation. It can be a very uncomfortable energy to carry. It can provoke other people just by walking into a room. That's its nature. So you could bring some attention to that aspect of the gate as the moon passes through this interesting energy. Although I have to say, for myself, I'm hoping to be asleep at 3:21 tomorrow morning and not looking to provoke anybody at all. We'll see what happens in my dreams. That's where we are today in this new gate, gate 40. So thank you very much for joining me. And if you have any comments, please do leave them. I always read your comments. And I do usually respond. If I haven't responded, then please do nudge me, because I really enjoy the community communications that come through having these transit experiences. And we're in it together. And I'm giving you my interpretation I don't have your chart. I don't have your activations. I haven't got your life. So it's very, very personal I'm giving to you in a way, although I'm also giving you very generic terms for all of these gates and these lines and these activations. So I look forward to hearing from you if you feel invited. Would you like to comment? I'm always open to comments. I mean, covering all the bases. I will see you tomorrow for a second line. Until then, go gently.